Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video, having a look at weather next week, 10 days for today's first video. This takes us up to around the 26th of November, so we're heading off towards the end of the month with this update. So a lot of uncertainty still at the moment in relation to next week's weather. I did a video about the models last night. They was potentially starting to swing back a little bit into a colder solution this morning. We still have a lot of uncertainty between the GFS and the ECMWF. I'm going to show you what's happening in a moment. This will be resolved soon because we're going to get to the time frame where all the confusion is. So before much longer, this has got to be resolved one way or the other. I'm going to show you everything that's going on in a second. We'll start off having a look at the Central England temperature. Just to say that later on today, we're going to have the 7th Christmas update. So I'll be with you around 7 o'clock this evening on the Christmas updates page. And also, talking about Christmas, the Christmas shop is open. So if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, all you have to do is click the green button that says Gav's Christmas Shop. It's directly underneath this video. That will take you to our Christmas shop page. And then from there, the key to it all is to click through the Amazon banners, because you've gone from Gav's Worthies to Amazon. It means that we get a revenue fee on the things that you are buying. And a big thank you to everybody for doing that. So you don't need to do anything differently. You just go from Gav's Worthies via Gav's Shop and the Amazon banners. Go from there through to Amazon. Do your shopping as normal. Because you've gone from one website, our website, to their website, we get a revenue fee on what you buy. Thanks so much to everybody for doing that. We'll keep plugging away at this until we get to Christmas and we run out of time. Black Friday coming up soon, so I assume some people might want to do their Christmas shopping then. But we'll keep bringing away at this anyway, and I'll keep mentioning it in videos as we go up towards Christmas. Right, let's get on with video. I'm going to start off by having a look at the Central England temperature halfway through the month now. So provisionally, up to yesterday, 15th of November, we're standing at 8.0, which is an anomaly of just 0.5 degrees, half a degree above average. So we're still a little bit above average for November, but nowhere near the deviation that we had in October when we came out at 12.4, an anomaly of 1.7 degrees above average. And if we could get this cold spell that some of the models are still going for, if we get that going next week and run it through to the end of the month, then where we are just there, just half a degree above average, we would have, we'd be standing quite a good chance of coming out with a colder than average November. The question is, will we do it? So I think it's still very much in the doubt exactly where we're going to finish up with November's CET. Anything from quite a significantly colder than average November to quite a significantly warmer than average November, and anything in between is still very much on the cards at the moment from this point, which is quite unusual. Normally by the midway point of the month, you've got a fairly good idea about where it's going to go, but because we're only a little bit above average, so we're around average, and the models are really split for the final sort of week to 10 days of the month, really split between producing quite a substantial cold spell and quite a substantial mild spell. We can't really pitch where we're going to finish up yet with the CET for November 2017. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, of course. Right, let's have a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the top. The GFS is on the bottom. We'll have a look at it in a moment. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to high pressure, blue to low pressure. I say these are the mean flowcharts for 7 to 10 days away, so this takes us to around 26th of November. So you see what's going on with the ECMWF. We've got this big blocking feature here up over the pole. Large area of high pressure is up there. That's a major blocking area of high pressure. But we also have this ridge with the ECMWF that's extending through Scandinavia and down into much of Europe, and then there's quite a deep trough just out to our northwest. So it means that despite the blocking feature, which really is having a good go at bringing cold weather to us, we're actually on the mild side of the jet stream here. We're doing something like that with the flow and with the jet stream, with the ECMWF. The cold air, or some of the cold air, is with this trough down in the southeast of Europe. So this is placing us on the mild side of the blocking and on the mild side of the jet, and we bring the air up rather like that. That's the ECMWF. Now, just have a look at the GFS, and how different is this? So we've got a really deep trough here across many central and western parts of Europe, and then we've got this large blocking feature that's going on up to our northwest. So both models are seeing this block sitting up over the pole, extending it down into Greenland. The difference is just in the position of it. The position of this one means that we're actually doing something like this with the flow and with the jet stream, which is placing us on the cold side of the jet and on the cold side of the blocking. So with this one, we are, instead of putting up southwesterly winds, as we see with the ECMWF, we're actually bringing down cold sort of northeasterly winds with the block to the northwest and the trough to the southeast. Huge differences between these two models for the 7 to 10 day time frame. So the uncertainty that I've been speaking about in the videos lately, it continues this morning. The battle between these two models, which way is it going to go? It is still, would you believe, too early to call, but that really is a very significant difference between those two models, and I think it's all being caused, again, I've explained this recently, I think it's all being caused by this blocking feature that we've got up over the pole, this large area of high pressure that's sitting there in the troposphere, in the pole. That is causing all of the confusion. Also, we've got the cold stratosphere as well above the troposphere. You've got the stratosphere. Temperatures there are cold. So you've got one thing going on in the troposphere with the blocking feature over the pole, and then you've got something else going on in the stratosphere with the stratosphere cold. So the two levels of the atmosphere, the trop and the strat, are at odds with one another, and that also is creating a lot of model confusion. But I think most of this confusion that's going on at the moment is down to the block in the Arctic itself and exactly how that's interacting with everything else in the mid-latitudes. Really interesting time, whichever way this happens to go. So these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're at Buxton today. I think that's the highest town in England. So we've got the red line here, which is the 30-year upper air temperature average at Buxton. Excuse me, and we're going a little bit cooler, it's colder than average through the rest of this week and into the weekend. Then early next week, the temperatures are lifting up. And it's really from around, these are the dates on the bottom, it's really from around the 21st of November, just here, that the confusion is coming in. So you'll see there are several members of the GFS ensembles, but from that point, 21st to 22nd of November, they're going cold. These are cold, wintry members of the GFS ensemble, including the operational run, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So those ones are the cold ones. The rest are generally on the mild side through the course of next week. Although, right at the very end of November, into the start of December even now with the ensembles, we do perhaps see a trend to move down with many of these ensemble members into something cold. So it may be that if we're going to have a go at turning things very cold next week, it may be that if that doesn't come off, it'll just be put back and then we'll have another go right at the very end of November, start of December, this point just here. I think that's what this part of the ensemble might be hinting at. But we've got to concentrate on next week's weather, of course. So, I say, this is the split within the GFS ensembles. Cold members there, mild members up here. Let's have a look at the surface. Oh, and in terms of precipitation, just very quickly. So, a lot of dry weather coming up for the rest of this week into the weekend. Next week does look a little bit more unsettled, although that is a bit toned down on the rather sort of deluge-looking ensembles we were seeing a couple of days ago. Right, let's have a look at the surface temperature and air pressure for Buxton. So again, we're going to have a look at surface temperatures. First of all, let's just pull that back a little bit. So we have a look at surface temperatures to begin with, and this is how the surface temperature is looking. We're starting off fairly mild at around 10 degrees at Buxton. This is our cooler to colder snap that's coming up over the weekend. Remember, Buxton isn't all that representative of the wider UK because it is the highest town in England, so it is one of the coldest places. So anyway, we go down to around 0 degrees with minimum temperatures over the weekend. Into the start of next week, we get a little bit of a recovery in the temperatures. And then you can see very clearly the split that's going on from this point onwards, 21st to 22nd. So these are the ensemble members that are going cold through next week, and you can see that those ensemble members are taking minimums down to between 0 and -5 degrees with the minimum temperatures through the course of next week. Maximums between 0 and +5 degrees. So quite clearly, these ensemble members are the ones that are cold through the course of next week. Conversely, these ensemble members up here are the ones that are mild through the course of next week. And they're keeping, a lot of those are keeping maximum temperatures close to 10 degrees and minimum temperatures at or above 5 degrees in this phase just here. So between the mildest, the warmest, and the coldest members, there is getting on to something like a 10 to 15 degree temperature differential, which is quite unusual. The white line is the trend line for the ensemble, and you can see that overall that is moving downwards for Buxton as we're going toward the final stages of November, which is this point just here, a long way out, but you notice the trend is down. So as we go along, more and more of these ensemble members are doing something colder, and that tells us that even if next week's go at getting the winds into the north and northeast fails, and it might do, it certainly is possible, but it could do, we may have another go at it right at the very end of November. As far as the air pressure is concerned, so we're starting off at 1,020 millibars, going up to around 1,030 millibars, and holding steady into the weekend. And then gradually we see pressure lowering. Actually, by the time we get through to next week, middle of next week, we've gone quite low with the air pressure down to around 1,000 millibars. And again, very big split between the ensemble members. So some ensemble members are keeping relatively high pressure through next week, close to 1,020. Some are going very low with the pressure down to 970 millibars. It would be interesting to know which ones of these are the warmest and the coldest. I suspect that the warmest ensemble members are actually ones that are going for the lowest pressure. They'll be ones that are driving in areas of low pressure from off the Atlantic. The coldest ensemble members will probably be these ones up here with relatively high pressure. Again, very split between the scenarios that are on offer, both in terms of temperature and in terms of air pressure through the course of next week. Temperature anomalies are looking like this next week. It's taking us from the 16th to 24th of November, and we're coming out average to slightly now cooler than average for much of the UK and for many parts of Europe as well. Notice Norway is coming out very significantly colder than average for the week ahead. Precipitation anomalies are showing that much of Western Europe is still drier than average, quite substantially so. Central and eastern parts and northeast parts of Europe are a bit of a mixed bag, but overall more on the unsettled side in the northeast, drier in the southwest of Europe. In America, by way, temperature anomalies are a little bit cooler than average over in the eastern states, but not a big deviation. Many central western parts of America are coming out warmer than average. Precipitation anomalies in America show that it's quite wet in the northwest. The Pacific Northwest is looking wet, or generally over towards the Pacific side, actually, looking quite wet. Many southern parts of the states are coming out dry. Dry anomalies also into the southeast and east of America, a little bit more unsettled up to the north and the northeast of America. Right, let's have a look at the GFS midnight run there. We're only up to the 6 o'clock run of the GFS model today. So this is how things are looking with the midnight run, or this is how things were looking with the midnight run of the GFS for Monday. High pressure reaching through the country and tying in to this blocking feature that's going on up here. So it's dry and cold to start next week. Through to the middle part of next week, so high pressure is very close to us. It's a little bit milder at this point. We saw it on the ensembles that we do get a slightly milder interlude through the middle part of next week. This area of low pressure is the trigger as we go through to Thursday to start to turn winds into the north. So it's midday on Wednesday, with that low pressure beginning to slip down the North Sea. Notice heights are rising to our north and northwest, which means by the time we get through to Thursday next week, yes, we've got high pressure blocking things out over Iceland and going up to Greenland. This low pressure is deepening in the North Sea, and the squeeze between the two turns the winds into the north-northeast, and then we're off and running into a cold spell. And that takes us through to the end of next week, where it is looking cold and wintry. The winds are in from the north and the northeast. Very cold air plunges down into much of Europe as well with those northerly winds, but there's enough of a northerly northeasterly influence for us to say that we are within that cold air. It does look wintry on the midnight run of the GFS as we go into next week, and that continues into the weekend of the 25th, 26th of November. This is day 10, which is Sunday the 26th of November, with the high pressure still out to the north and northwest, low pressure to the east. Then we've still got the winds coming in from the north or northeasterly direction. So the midnight run of the GFS was cold and wintry from the middle to second half of next week onwards. This is the latest GFS run. It's a 6 o'clock run. Let's see what that's doing. Again, on Monday, high pressure is in control, but a little bit weaker compared to the midnight run. So even as early as Monday, we're seeing variability within the GFS model, which is very unusual. That's only a couple of days away. It's only 4 days away. You will think by now Monday would be sorted out, but not really. England and Wales could be frosty here on Monday morning, but Scotland and Northern Ireland likely to be milder and wetter. Then go through to middle part of next week, and it doesn't look as good at this point as the GFS did up to Wednesday. The GFS midnight run did, I should say, up to Wednesday to turn things colder. So this is quite a mild airstream that's coming up from the southwest through the middle part of next week. But eventually the 6 o'clock run of the GFS did get there. By the time we go through to the end of next week, we are turning winds into north. So it's a little bit later doing it, but eventually it does start to bring down much colder air from the north. And again, that takes into quite a cold and wintry weekend for the 25th, 26th of November, the last weekend of November. Looks quite cold, quite wintry here, with the air coming in from the east and from the northeast. These areas of low pressure tried to come in from the Atlantic, but being blocked by all of this cold air, a wedge of cold air sitting up to the north and the northeast. Of course, as these low pressures try to come into that cold air, not totally impossible that they might produce snow. So that is, it's a little bit more flimsier, if you like, with the cold weather compared to the midnight run, but it has perhaps more snow potential here. I mean, this is how things are looking just a little bit beyond day 10, Monday 27th, when we're running these low pressures through the channel. On the northern side of these low pressure, we have got quite a lot of cold air, so again, not inconceivable that that could be rain or snow running across England and Wales. It's more flimsy, though, and could easily go into a milder direction than the midnight run, which was a little bit more locked in terms of the cold weather. Overall, the GFS is still trending quite cold at the moment. The ECMWF, finally, we know it's going to be very, very different. So it's how things are looking for Monday. Very similar to what the GFS is doing. That lasts into Tuesday, but by Wednesday, here comes the low pressure from the Atlantic. We're on the mild side of blocking. We have got the blocking. That's the blocking feature. We saw it on the height anomaly. It is there. It's over Greenland. It's extending up to the Arctic. But for us, these areas of low pressure are pushing in the mild air, with the cold air from the blocking actually going down there, and also the cold air from the blocking is going down there as well. So we're just on the wrong side of the setup, and we are in the mild and wet scenario for the middle part of next week. And then we go off and running into the extended part of the ECMWF, which is mild and unsettled. So instead of the weekend of the 25th, 26th of November being cold and wintry, as we have seen it on the GFS, 2 GFS runs, the ECMWF is mild, perhaps very mild, and wet as we go through into that last weekend of November. And of course, this makes a big difference to how we come out with the overall temperature for the month, because if the GFS is right, we'll probably come out with a cold and average month. If the ECM is right, then we'll probably come out with a milder than average month. That's how we finish up on day 10. Still looking unsettled, a little bit cooler there, but overall that is still pretty mild and unsettled for the final stages of November. So the battle goes on, and the uncertainty goes on with it. It's very difficult to say which way this is going to go. What I would say is that the 6 o'clock GFS has reduced the blocking signal a little bit compared to the midnight run. So if that's the trend that the GFS is going to go with, let's say when the midday run appears later on this afternoon, reducing the blocking a little bit more, then eventually we will end up with the GFS coming into line with the ECM. Overall, the ECMWF is regarded as the best model, the better of the models, but it isn't infallible. We saw it a lot last winter that it did get things wrong. I don't think there's as much in it between the ECMWF and the GFS as there was a few years ago. There was a big difference between the two models a few years ago. There isn't as much of a difference between the two models now. So we'll see what midday runs have to say later on. Today, will the ECMWF swing to the GFS and go cold, or will the GFS swing to the ECM and go mild? We'll be keeping you posted, of course. Right, a bit of an extended one today, over 20 minutes, but there's so much going on. I wanted to bring you up to date with all of it. So that's all for now, and thanks for watching.